Morning, Mr. Chairman.
I think we are here. If you want to get started, roll call. I guess we all have red folders and blue folders.
No.
All right.
I am happy to start with the roll call, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Racines.
Here.
Commissioner Wallace.
Here.
Commissioner Revel.
Here.
Commissioner Pope.
Excused, I guess.
And Commissioner Naves.
Excused, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, regardless, you have a quorum, and I expect both of them to be here imminently.
All right.
Online.
Very
We'll
good.
up for that.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as usual, some quick announcements, agendas and sign-in sheets are outside the room. If you are here in person, please do fill that out. And then for my monthly disclaimer, key decisions pertaining to the Wyoming Stable Token Initiative will be made by the commissioners of the Stable Token Commission or the state legislature in public meetings such as this. Further, the only commissioners are those appointed by statute, the governor, or a majority vote of the commission. At this time, the Frontier Stable Token, or FRNT token, issued by the commission is now available for purchase on the Kraken Exchange, a cryptocurrency exchange domiciled in Wyoming. A link to the listing page for Front is on our website's homepage. The Front token has been deployed on mainnet Arbitrum, Avalanche, Base, Ethereum, Optimism, Polygon, and Solana blockchains, and smart contract addresses are published on the Commission's website. Any centralized exchange claiming to sell or distribute Front or Wyoming stable tokens besides Kraken should be considered fraudulent. Caution is advised for users looking to source Front from decentralized exchanges. Please do not attempt to purchase tokens from unauthorized sources. Information outside of these public meetings should only be considered factual and legitimate if it is distributed through our official channels. At this time, these are limited to our website at stabletoken.wyo.gov, the Wyoming legislature website at wyoleg.gov, and our social media channels with the @WyoStable username on Twitter, YouTube, GitHub, and Warpcast. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I can go through today's agenda.
Very good. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we'll start with our standard review of the meeting minutes and the monthly budget for the month ending December 31st. We will review our attestation report for December 31st as well, and I will provide an update on the GASB presentation that we discussed last month. I'll provide a very brief stable token industry update today, an update on our token management rules, the initiation of the first quarter blockchain selection exercise for this year, and some updates on our launch and the next steps there. We'll talk about some next steps for the commission specifically, upcoming meetings and events, and then we will open for public comment.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with that, we do have the first item in front of you is the meeting minutes from our December 18th meeting. To go through these super quick at a high level, as usual, we did review and approve the prior meeting minutes. We reviewed the November 30th budget, which included some conversation about how the initial issuance and redemption of Front tokens purchased and redeemed by the agency were treated through the Wolves platform. We went through draft quarterly reconciliations from inception on a kind of balance sheet income statement basis, and then had a dialogue about the GASB presentation thereof, which we'll talk a bit more about in a few minutes. Went through the November attestation report, verbal updates on our token management rules, and the 2026 budget session bills, noting that the Stable Token Act amendments have already been put forth as Senate File 21 by the Select Committee on Blockchain. We reviewed the agency fact book, which will be updated as a live document that now lives on our website. The industry update for the blockchain selection exercise, there were no submissions received for assessment, no new data to share, and then went through the launch, the next steps for the token launch ahead of public comment from Marco Rubel at Fundora and Ian Tempty at Blue Financial Federal Credit Union. Any questions on the meeting minutes?
Are there any questions, comments? If not, you would like us.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from December 18th, 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner Racines. Is there support?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Wallace. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nays? Thank you. I hear Commissioner Naves on,
Yes, Governor. Thank you.
and I see Commissioner Pope. So we're in good shape. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome Commissioner Navas, Commissioner Pope. Moving on to the next item, that is our monthly budget review for the month ending December 31st. Again, you have the summary and detailed presentation. We'll stick with the summary for now. As usual, the main driver of our monthly expenses is payroll, and that has been consistent since the beginning of this calendar year. For travel, again, we've put a travel moratorium in place. We do have some charges for the team for in-state and out-of-state travel, representing travel that happened in early November, particularly our Chief Risk and Compliance Officers, Deborah Brooks, traveled to Singapore for the Singapore FinTech Festival, as well as domestic travel in New York for the UN General Assembly panel where she was invited to speak. Moving down to our 200 series, the second line, office supplies and printing, you'll notice there is a, being that this is an expense report, a $512 benefit. That is something that was imported into the Wolf system as a negative balance. It should be an expense and will be reverted by the A&I team in the next month's presentation. But essentially, that's just office supplies, printer paper, ink, and other things for essentially the entire time this agency has been in existence. It's something that we, with our office, the Idleman, we had not ponied up before. So we have done that to make sure we were putting our, fulfilling our piece there. So that's what that $512 line item is there. And then that next line item, hardware, software, and intangibles, that is the, at this point, standard monthly charge for all of our recurring software services, including X, Notion, OpenAI, Zoom, Brevo for marketing, and QuickBooks for some of the internal recording of transactions. Moving down to the 400 series, the telecom charges, you'll note that there was a bit of an increase, about $150 from our standard charge. That is representing the certificates that we have procured through the Enterprise Technology Services team in the state. It's about a $34 charge for the security certificate for the website that is maintained and hosted by ETS. It's $150 in this month because that is essentially paying for several prior months of charges that were not invoiced to us until December. They were, we paid them, and that'll be expected to be a $34 charge going forward. So we'd expect this line item to be about $285 on a consistent basis from here on out. And then in the 900 series, we have all of our vendor charges, attorney services from Paul Hastings, the second line, contractor services. That December charge represents the monthly fee from Inca Digital, which is our open source intelligence provider. We do expect about a $60,000 charge in January from Chainalysis Government Solutions for the period of engaging them in, I believe, early December through the end of the biennium. For the information and research services, that is the fee for the network firm, which is our audit and attestation partner. That's a monthly charge. And then the last item there is that $500. That is reimbursement to Layer 0, which is our token issuance partner, as a reimbursement for blockchain gas fees incurred during the launch of Front. So essentially, when we had to launch our smart contracts, that requires a small amount of cryptocurrency to deploy those, and Layer 0 ponied that up for us at that time. So that is a reimbursement there.
Question, Anthony. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, on the information research, is that roughly 72,000 going to be an annual cost going into next year and subsequent 71.9?
Okay, so the chair, Commissioner Meyer, you're referring to the April charge in information research services.
Yeah.
That was our engagement of Layer 0 for the initial deployment of our smart contracts. Now that
Okay.
that has been completed through the test net and the main net, we've transitioned that over to our control. It's important for the launch that before going live, that our team was in control of all of that.
Uh-huh.
There may be a smaller charge in the next biennium depending on how many chains we want to deploy on, if we want that hands-on assistance. And I think we would probably have some, but I would not expect that to be as high of a number.
Okay, so that's almost a one-off, but we may have, if we have, I guess, some changes or something that we want to test, that's where we go with that. Yeah, okay.
Through the chair, Commissioner Meyer, that's exactly correct.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than a one-time setup fee, it would look more like ad hoc services if we have more supported, we have more candidate blockchains through that blockchain selection exercise process that we want to bring on. And their architecture may look slightly different than what we have now, where it's not so much of a current turnkey deployment for us. We want some hands-on assistance. We can pull them in and engage them to help with that. And as a general comment, this was in the budget narrative we provided. You know, we noted that there are kind of a blend of different contractors. Some will be re-engaged at the same level. Layer 0 is one we pointed to where it'll probably be at a lesser level, but probably also not zero. And there are some, including the network firm, the expectation is we'd be engaging them at a higher level in the next biennium, because for the network firm, them doing an audit for us, that's going to be on June 30th numbers. So definitionally, there's not going to be an audit charge for time spent on an audit before the audit period. So we've pointed out, and we have a very good lay of the land as we were putting the budget together for the next biennium. We put together, we spoke with a number of the vendors to make sure we understood what those outlays would look like. One more comment here, just in terms of the summary of spend to date. BFY 25 commission expenses to date are $2,864,863 of the $5.8 million allocated, which is 49.39% of the total budget. And I will note that does include just based on the way that we get the numbers from A&I through the Wolves system, that does include the $7,000, which we used to initially buy the Frontier stable token. And again, we in November started putting some of that money back into our own coffers. So again, our spend is still about 2.2 million in reality, once we account for that. And I would note that we have a remaining budget of $2,935,130. Apologize. It's very small text. Now it's starting to get to me as well. The remaining budget for this biennium is $2,935,136 for the remainder, or 50.61% of the total budget allocation for the remaining 6 months of the biennium. So again, 50% of the budget for 25% of the time. And again, if we were to account for that $700K coming back, that would again be even rosier picture than it already is. Any questions on our expenses?
Questions? I don't hear any. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, you have the detailed version of this for context and reference, although I don't see anything on here specifically that we haven't already discussed that'd be worth covering. So if there's no questions on that, I will continue on to, well, before we get to the attestation report, just one other note. So per the agenda, we'll go through the attestation report first, then we'll talk about the GASB stuff. So the attestation report, again, this is something we do on a month-to-month basis now to attest to the backing of the reserves for the Frontier stable token. We do receive an we receive an independent opinion on this from the network firm on a monthly basis as well. And again, you could see that as of December 31st, this is before we had launched the token formally. There hadn't been any issuances nor redemptions over the course of December because we had done our activity already in October and November. So this is pretty static in terms of the amount of front in circulation, although you can see that the liquidity fund account where we're capturing the interest income has functionally doubled since the prior month, right? And that's the intent here, right? That amount should continue growing and compounding over time. We have not deployed any capital from the liquidity fund account into treasuries yet. We want there to be a bit more mass in there before that happens. But again, you can see that we have all of our reporting here. We note on page 4 all of the different chains we're on, the smart contract addresses that can be verified by the public, and the number of Frontier stable tokens we have in circulation on each of those chains. On page 5, we do list the specific QSIPs for all of the treasuries and repurchase agreements that we hold. So that is also verifiable. And then we have at the bottom a key footnote, footnote 4. Again, no changes to this from last month or October, but I do just want to flag based on the dialogue last month about unrealized gains and losses. This is something that we call out in this footnote for now, that there's going to be, once the token is live, we do expect there to be more motility in these accounts. So we'll need to account perhaps more granularly for deposits or withdrawals at that month-end period. Unrealized gains and losses are mentioned here as well as things like interest receivables. So we've certainly disclaimed that in this report. And just for one more piece of data, we did look into this for the $672,000 we have as the totality of reserve assets. The unrealized gains and losses at the end of December in the 12/31 statement were $210. So fairly immaterial, but something that we will continue to monitor as we build out the report as more volume and activity does arrive.
Excellent. Any questions on the attestation report? Hearing none, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just a verbal note on the GASB presentation. So last month, we did have some marked as draft statements where really the goal for us was to demonstrate that our ability to reconcile financial reports back to the inception of the agency, while also including all of the data that's captured outside of the state system. So outside of Wolves, we have our reserves. Outside of Wolves, we have the blockchain transactions. So our CFO, Joseph Saldana, has put those reports together. The feedback from and the dialogue from the commission was we need to make sure that as we bring formal statements forward from the agency, they are in a GASB presentation, as we are a government agency. Further dialogue on the back of that noted the ability to perhaps have GASB and unaudited GAAP-based financial statements so that we can be viewed in parity to other stablecoin issuers. So what Mr. Saldana has done is prepared a draft GASB presentation. We have received I want to make sure I use the right terms here, a statement of net position, as well as a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances from the A&I team earlier this week. So Joe will be working on reconciling his GASB presentation to those A&I forms. Once we have a chance to accomplish that and review that internally as an agency, we've noted our desire to work with Auditor Racines, Commissioner Pope, and Commissioner Wallace on an initial review before we bring those forms back in front of the commission. Again, with a bit of runway here, we don't need audited financials until that June 30th date, but really knowing that we are pulling from multiple systems, we need to build out our tracking capabilities, and we're going to want several months of books running in parallel. This is the right time to do that, and we will be bringing that forward most likely next month with a bit more of a GASB style and flavor to it. Any questions on the GASB presentation?
Questions? All right, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for the stable token industry update next on the list, we'll keep this one very quick. The stablecoin market cap has continued to stay around its all-time high of $300 billion, up about $95 billion or 46% from this time in the prior year. And I'll note that over the last month, stablecoins were responsible for $8.2 trillion in transfer volume. From the domestic international incumbent perspective, I would keep my comments this morning to what's happening in DC. The Senate continues to debate the Responsible Financial Innovation Act, which is the Senate's version of a market structure bill for crypto and digital assets, generally speaking. That is something that the House has already passed their Clarity Act some months ago. So that's just kind of sitting there until the Senate version comes through. I will note that this has been actively debated this week, although it was tabled late yesterday afternoon for further discussion and comment and markup. It is a 300 almost page bill, and there is a lot of dialogue around the ability for stablecoins to provide some kind of benefit to their holders, whether that's yield, interest, or rewards. That's up for discussion. And I would note that the Genius Act does prohibit stablecoins that are under the Genius Act from providing yield or distributing yield to their holders. However, what companies, like the relationship as an example between Circle as a stablecoin issuer and Coinbase as an exchange currently do, is Circle can't provide any benefits, but Coinbase can. If you stake your USDC on the Coinbase platform, you can receive some APY based off of that. And the discussion in the Senate right now is whether those types of programs would be allowed to remain. So no definitive action right now, but this is an active debate. So we'll continue to keep the commission informed of how that ends up. And again, this is still one part of the process before Senate comes to terms with their own and passes their own version of the market structure. Then they'll need to go with the House and have their negotiation. So still potential for a lot of movement on this, and we're monitoring all of that from the commission side.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Treasurer.
Now, I guess outside the United States that there is the possibility of yield. So you're kind of competing with your hands tied more or less if you can't give some kind of reward as far as that goes. But we've got, I think, certainty in our regulatory frameworks, and there are a lot more. I would say something that somebody would like to hold because of the certainty in the regulations versus the other side of it.
Through the chair, Commissioner Meyer, I think you've touched on a bit of a nerve with the industry and that exact perspective, which is you can have yield-bearing USD denominated stable coins offshore, Bermuda or other jurisdictions like that, which is essentially interest payments from government, right? So if you're offshore, you can get payments from the government, but if you're in the US, you are functionally shut out of that system. So that's one of the things that has come up in these conversations. It's one of the points that the crypto and digital asset industry is making during these conversations and negotiations. So I think I think your point is well informed and well taken in the legislative circles that are discussing this.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please.
But at this time, the bill that's before Congress doesn't contemplate individual corporations having stable tokens, and so those doors are still basically closed.
Through the chair, Commissioner Meyer, that's correct. Again, if you are a permitted payment stablecoin under the Genius Act, you are prohibited from providing yield.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are there other questions? Any other comments?
From my side, no.
Yeah, sure.
A positive.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will move on to our next item, which is the token management rules. So I am happy to report that the token management rules for the commission have been signed by the governor and are now fully promulgated as of yesterday afternoon. So to provide just a little bit of the context, the commission did approve those as is without any non-substantive or substantive changes in late November. We passed those on to the Secretary of State's office. Those then went to the Legislative Services Office, which reviewed them in early December, did not have any material comments, sent those off to Management Council with a recommendation for approval. Management Council then reviewed and approved in mid-December. And again, we have now had the governor sign off on that. So we are fully promulgated. Those regular rules now supersede the emergency rules that we had put into place that would have expired or would expire on January 24th. So there's no need for an extension of the token management rules in emergency context that we had previously put forth. And I'll also note at this point with rules around procurement, the Wyoming Public Records Act, and fees associated with inbound rules and on reserves management and token management, I think will likely be pencils down on rules for a little bit. That being said, if it makes sense to bring other rule sets forward, of course we can in the future. Just two things I wanted to flag based on prior conversations over the last 2 years. One of the things we did not set rules around was attestation specifically. Things like timelines that would compel the commission to provide an attestation report, let's say 15 days. That the reason we did not go that route is because we were working on reserves management rules, then token management rules, which both would have to have some overlap with that attestation. So you want to get that done first before we approach the attestation topic. And the second thing about attestation that would probably make more sense as a policy than rules is we are, as we've talked about previously, trying to move towards real-time attestation. And actually, I would say we're looking at having that online and probably at the end of this month or early in February, which would be a great first for us as well. All that to say is rules around, a 15-day or a 30-day attestation cycle may not be as impactful if we're doing real-time attestations. So I think once we move towards that real-time basis and we understand the data inputs, as we review the process and get hands-on with it, we will put more context into that policy and move forward in that capacity. So that was one. And the second one was regarding the Stable Token Act amendments that are in front of the legislature for this cycle. One of the amendments to the Stable Token Act would allow the commission to take in federal grants, charitable contributions, donations. And while that could be helpful for us, the dialogue I've had with the select committee during our meetings is we as an agency would need to put policies or rules in place for that would allow us to accept those donations or contributions. The concern is if you leave it open, the agency would have, I would guess, the ability to take in any number of cryptocurrencies and some that we may not have intelligence over where the tokens are coming from. So we would likely need to make a set of rules or policies around what we were able to accept. Again, my personal opinion at this time is that policy would make more sense because if we have more candidate blockchains come online, those would need to be included in such a policy or rule set. And if we had to update rules every time we added a blockchain, that could become a bit laborious. So again, my personal opinion at this point is that both the attestation piece and grants, charitable contributions, donations would both be governed by policy. And again, the latter would be downstream of the legislature giving us the ability to do that in the first place. So that's kind of my tying a bow around rules for the time being. But again, happy to entertain any questions or comments.
Are there questions or comments? Director, I do have a comment. You'll remember, and for those who may not, let me remind that folks that as of July 1st, any member of the legislature at pretty much any time can call into question new rules promulgated after that date. It is a ridiculous new law. I was overridden in doing that. What it does is introduces a level of uncertainty for any rule passed after the 1st of July. And as you point out, it already goes through Management Council. It's already referred to the Legislative Service Office, so the legislature presumably already has a chance to look at it. It's an incredibly problematic rulemaking obstacle by introducing more bureaucracy into a system that was supposed to solve bureaucracy. But I put all of that as a caveat that to whatever degree that we can hustle our rules with the transparency, with the public comment, with all the pieces that we care about and want to make sure people have their appropriate opportunity to comment, review, look at, and get the answers that they want. I just think that there's a urgency to get those done. I do worry because if somebody at some point down the road with a rule promulgated after the 1st contacts the legislator and says, "Gee, I don't like those rules. I don't like the way they look." Then the legislature can negate those rules and we have to start over. So,
Mr. Chairman, the comment is well taken, and thank you again for providing that context. To put a very specific example forward, if the Stable Token Act amendments pass as they're now drafted, one of the permissions that would be granted to us would be the ability to avail ourselves of a 2A7 fund structure for reserves management. So again, cash, short duration, treasuries, repos, and or a 2A7 fund, which would look quite similar. There'd be different durations around and constraints around weighted average maturity, weighted average life. but that would be a net new availability for us that would have an impact on the existing rules where we would want to go back and update immediately. You know, if those are passed in March before the July date, we want to go back and make sure we adjusted those rules to accommodate for a 2A7 fund. And that's certainly something that our team is tracking because we are aware that we want to get this done with expediency before that time horizon occurs.
And just to put a point on it, I think that's a good example, and thank you for that. There are certain cases where we have to align state rules. We're by federal statute supposed to align state rules with federal rules. It's mostly is on things like prescription drugs and so on, and it's fairly routine. This particular law allows for the legislature to take exception to that, which would introduce a really interesting question if we don't align with federal law. So, enough said. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll move on to, again, another quick item on our agenda, which is the Q1 2026 blockchain selection exercise. So typically, kind of repeating here, in the first month of the quarter, we review the criteria internally for any kind of updates we would want to present to the commission. At this point, for Q1, we do not have any updates to the criteria that we are recommending, which will mean we'll move into our Q2 activity, which is reaching out to the primary sources of different blockchain foundations or development teams, trying to get data from them that would accommodate the 30-ish different criteria we have, to ask for any kind of updates to their data, their how much transaction volume, efficiency of settlement of transactions and how fast those are clearing, new use cases that have grown on the chain or expanded on chain, emerging technology that they're getting involved with. So we review those primary sources in month 2. And then in month 3, we do our own internal validation of what we hear back. So at this point in time, again, there's no criteria updates from our side, which would allow us to move into that outreach directly to those primary sources this afternoon and begin collecting that data for our next month's triage. Any questions on that?
Questions? Okay.
Okay. Now, the front launch update and next steps. So I am happy to report, and I think this commission knows, that we did complete the launch of the first fiat-backed and fully reserved stable token issued by a public entity in the US on January 7th. The Frontier stable token is now available for sale on the Kraken exchange, again, Wyoming domiciled exchange, and it is available on the Solana blockchain there. And users can purchase that token, and then once they move it to their self-custodial wallets, they're able to move it to any of the other 6 chains we currently support through the Stargate portal, which is Layer 0's bridging technology to go from one chain to another, depending on how and where you want to use it. The sentiment has been extremely positive. That's not just me saying that in my bubble. That is actual data we have with our open source intelligence provider, Inca Digital. They run analytics on social media, articles, other discussions that are coming out about our program, and they essentially analyze all the text for the sentiment of that data. Neutral is 0, negative is bad. It goes down to -1, +1 is as positive as it can be. Most digital asset projects are around a 0.2, 0.25. The Frontier stable token is over 0.6. So it's extremely positive sentiment. And I think a lot of the dialogue and the write-ups have been about how far forward this commission has helped move an industry in terms of transparency and professionalism by taking a methodical approach, having all of our determinations made in a public forum, putting all of our materials on our website, laws promulgated by the legislature, rules promulgated following public comment, and again, are moving towards attestations and real-time attestations is also a big move in the right direction. So it's been extremely positive, and that's been great feedback to see. We currently have 1.5 million Frontier stable tokens issued. We are likely a few $1,000s away from another issuance order with our liquidity provider, which is Cumberland DRW LLC, based in Chicago. We've been moving those issuances in several $100,000s at a time to get to that 1.5 million number. And that is, again, with the early launch, and we're only a week into this, but that is positive feedback. A couple of other points. One is a few folks have noted the 24-hour volume of Frontier stable tokens, which is on the Kraken platform. And because it's calculated there, it gets represented on different blockchain indexes and data analytics platforms. I would characterize that number as artificially low, because that number captures the amount of Frontier stable tokens being moved on and off of the Kraken exchange. It does not account for the actual buy and sells on the Kraken platform, which is a different look you need to have into the console, which is not necessarily public. We've been going back and forth with the Kraken and Cumberland teams to get that data. But the 24-hour volume is not reflective of what's happening on Kraken. To that extent, one more note I would make about that volume is on Kraken as a compliance check and a security mechanism. When any user buys a new asset on the Kraken platform, the plurality of the funding is kind of locked up on the Kraken platform for 7 days before you can extract it to your self-custody wallet, before you can pull it off the platform. So that unlock for those who had purchased the token at its inception ended yesterday morning, and we've seen about a 50% uptick in that 24-hour volume number since then as people are moving the token on and off of the exchange. We're also doing our checks on the Chainalysis platform, which is part of our on-chain analytics program, where we look at how the token is moving and where it's moving to, the wallets that are interacting with it, if bridging activity is happening, to make sure all of the activity seems to be above board based on the analytics and the algorithms that are in there. So far, so good. And now, in terms of creating additional liquidity and starting to boost the number of Frontier stable tokens in circulation, we are looking to put into post-only mode on Kraken today the front to USDC, which is the Circle stable token, trading pair. So if you have USDC, you'll be able to deposit that in the Kraken platform. Kraken will be able to give you the Frontier stable token in return. And again, that process is managed by our market maker, Cumberland DRW. I want to be very specific. We as an agency are not taking in USDC or any other stable tokens to issue front. Our statute is extremely specific that we take in and put back out US dollars at redemption. So this is one of the other functions that could help increase liquidity for the entire platform, because if people have the USDC token already, it's a pretty simple facilitation, and then they don't need to deposit new dollars onto the platform to get front. So we expect that to help open up the pie. Again, that will go into post-only mode, likely at some point this afternoon, with an expectation that that will be a live trading pair tomorrow. And then we're also working with the Kraken team to understand how, in addition to the Solana token, other chains that we've issued on natively can also be supported on that platform and moving forward from there, which is a bit more of a technical lift, which is why we started with one, but we tend to expand that over time. And then finally, as kind of a big to-do on our side, obviously this commission has been spending almost 2 years having robust dialogue with a number of different business partners, exchanges, token issuers, blockchains, at this point, states and other municipalities, and far beyond that, tech companies, about how they can leverage the benefits of the Frontier stable token. And now it's incumbent on myself and my team to transition from the hefty effort to get this thing launched to the hefty effort to making sure everyone who wants to use it is able to get it and use it. We have a big lift in front of us on that, but we are excited to do it, and we will keep this commission and the public posted on how that all goes. And that is my launch update and next steps. So I'm happy again to take any comments or questions about the launch.
Yeah, I guess kind of tying it all around in a circle. If you get a 1.5 million out there, then I guess Templeton's got a 1.5 million in treasury assets, and that's all totally, everything is just clicking right along. So we don't have any I guess breaks in the timeline and the 7-day period there that Kraken has. Kind of explain that to me a little bit more. They kind of just hold everything for 7 days as everything clears and moves through the process. Is that what it is?
Through the chair, Commissioner Meyer, that is correct on the Kraken side. Essentially, it's their own internal compliance piece, making sure that everything's in the right position, as you mentioned. And just going back to the first part of your statement as well, in regards to that, everything on our side has worked as intended for the issuance and redemption. I will say I take personal pride in the work we've done with our partners over at Franklin Templeton and Cumberland to make sure that those rails were flowing in an extremely timely manner. I believe from the first wire from Cumberland to issuance of the token and sending those to Cumberland, I think that took less than an hour to get that all done, which includes confirmation with Franklin that they have the wire on their side. They can see it. There's visibility on their platform. We've confirmed that. We then mint the token. We go through the security protocols on our side. We send the token to Cumberland. They confirm it. Again, that all happened in less
So
than
we
an hour.
got the money in hand at Franklin before anything rolls.
Right. And to the
Okay,
chair,
great.
Commissioner Myers, per the rules, and we were quite intentional in structuring the rules this way, we do not mint nor issue tokens until that money is firmly in hand.
Mhm.
We can't be issuing things on an inbound wire that's not confirmed because that gets redacted along the way. Now we're at risk at.
Okay, no check
moving
kiting.
it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm quite proud of
Yeah,
I'm
good.
quite proud of how it all worked when we got there.
Very good. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, we could already move expeditiously on to next steps. Again, we already talked about the business development side of things, which would be our big focus in the immediate future. And as this commission is aware, the Joint Appropriations Committee continues to meet and debate the budget bill. So again, we'll have more context about that at our meeting on February 19th. We'll be several days into the budget session, so we'll have more intelligence at that time. I guess we're already segueing into the upcoming meetings and events. The budget session does kick off on February 9th. Management Council did elect a 21-day calendar, although I will note that there are, I believe, 3 days banked in the schedule that could be extended. So we're expecting this process could end first week of March, could be mid-March, but we'll be hands-on through that process, and we'll be sure to inform the commission and the public of how that's all going. That is all ahead of our next meeting on February 19th. We do expect that to be a virtual meeting. All of these rooms are booked for the budget session, so we'll be a little more flexible on that one. We do like to meet in person. And again, of course, the Zoom will be open for public comment and open to the public, as we've done for our special sessions. But for that one, just based on the bookings, it's likely we'll just do that one virtually. And that way, if anyone has commitments with the session, it'll be a little bit more easy to manage. And then the subsequent regular meeting after that is March 12th. We'll be back in this room, same time, same place. We'll continue making these meetings tighter. We again agreed to 90-minute meetings for this year. If we need special meetings, we need to extend, we certainly can do so. But I think we're at the 45-minute mark right now. And that is my piece. So, Mr. Chairman, if there are no other comments or questions from the commission, which I'll be happy to address, we would move into public comment. Duration will be limited to 3 minutes per speaking party or one question from an online participant. Speakers will be asked to provide their first name, last name, and affiliation for the public record per Wyoming Statute 16-4-403 subsection B. Decorum will be governed by the rules and standards of Management Council Policy 18-03 and Wyoming Statute 16-4-406.
Very good, Director. Before we jump into public comment, let me just offer an opportunity if there's any comments from commission members. Mr. Treasurer.
Well, good work to you and all your team and the long effort, and to everybody on the commission and the legislators who put this thing forward. It's been a team effort, and I think that the transparency that's been in this process, people know that we're doing the job right, and I sincerely believe that we're going to have a successful launch, have already, and it'll continue to grow. And I'm sure that anybody on the commission and the other partners that you have, we're there to see if we can get it done. And if there's anything you need with the legislative effort, as far as before or in front of the committees, don't hesitate to give me a tap on the shoulder, and we'll we'll see what we can do to keep this ball rolling in the right direction. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Treasurer. Any other? Hearing none, let's move to public comment. Are there members of the public here who would like to address the board? Commission, I mean?
See one new face.
And then Steph, is there anyone online? Wow. You know, when you actually get something done.
She
Oh,
does.
okay, thank you.
You were saying?
Oh, you have a marker.
On screen, we have a Marco, so open it to use.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marco Rubel. I am the principal at Fundora.biz. We're participating in the pilot project program. And through Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to let you know that we bought our first Frontier token this week, and we're using Live Frontier token in the next week to do some testing on our platform, which again is peer-to-peer lending for small, medium-sized enterprises, really looking at enabling access to micro levels of credit in the state of Wyoming. So just want to say thank you to the commission and Anthony and Steph Chen. So that would conclude my public comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being a part of this. So good comments. Steph, anyone else?
Nope.
Okay, well, then I was going to say, I'll finish my comment. When you do something right, people kind of want to be quiet about it, unfortunately. Thanks very much. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved. It's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks so very much.